Hey everybody, and welcome to Build Onchain. I'm here with Abi. Today we're going to be talking about Zerion and some of the API products that they've been developing. Abi, why don't you start by introducing yourself and then talking about what Zerion is?
Yeah. Hey, Christian. Glad to be here. My name's Abi. I lead the product at Zerion. And I guess, like, high level, Zerion is a Web3 wallet and now a developer platform. And our goal is to simplify the way users and builders interact with crypto assets across multiple chains. So I'll just split this into two sections, right? Like on the consumer side, a lot of you, we're best known for like our wallet app that lets you manage your tokens, NFTs, DeFi positions, and whatnot in one place. And I guess like a cool backstory here, it was the first wallet essentially to have a portfolio tracker inbuilt, making it a social wallet, right? So you could not only just have your wallet, but you could also connect your ledger, you could follow your friends, get notifications and stuff people do on chain. So that's kind of like our origin there. And then on the developer side, we offer now like a powerful API. And the goal of the API is to abstract away the complexity of indexing on-chain data. So like essentially we let teams plug into like ready to use endpoints like portfolio, PNL, transactions, DeFi, token data, and now webhooks without needing to like use an indexer, an RPC, or build custom infrastructure.
That's really cool. Just for like everyone's context, as somebody who's had to parse a lot of on-chain data, it's a huge pain. Do you mind explaining to the audience, like, if a developer needs to get data about token transfers or purchase of NFTs, how do they do that right now? And how does Zerion's API product make that so much easier?
Yeah, no, good question. I guess like the historical context here, right? Like if you went back to like DeFi summer 2020, I think that's where we had the first, I call it the first renaissance in data. Essentially, we went from developers used to self-host their own nodes, and then it suddenly became okay to like use a centralized node provider, like the Alchemies and the Quick nodes, and rely on a centralized platform to scale. So back then, depending on the chains, you didn't really have a lot of chains like the L2s and L3s right now. So you just need to like run a node, like have an RPC, fetch data individually. So say you had to integrate DeFi protocol, right? And you needed to like have Aave and the staked assets and the farmed assets on Aave. You need to like manually go to Aave's documentation, try to find out their different like, token contracts, and then like map this out on your end. And I'd say like now we're in the second renaissance of data, as I call it, where you have this hybrid system of like teams using like an RPC or indexer for like block level data, and then for token or position level data, you have a lot of or at least like you're starting to see these high level API providers, as I call it, like us or Dune, where you'd kind of like use a hybrid of an RPC and a high level token data provider. And then kind of like there's a lot of differences and nuances here, right? Like for example, if you use an RPC provider, a lot of them also have like a token transfer or transaction API, but they'd be limited in the sense that they probably wouldn't provide price metadata, or they'd only let you fetch transfers for a single chain in one call. So you need to essentially, it's n level complexity to like fetch across multiple chains or fetch more enriched data. And that's why I like to call it as like a whatever endpoint you need, you can kind of like fetch a lot more data with a single call. That's where the enriched really comes in. So like multiple chains and like like metadata that we dive into in a bit in a single call.
Cool. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, even just like pulling USDC transfers, it sounds like Zerion. I throw in a query and be like, get me every single USDC transfer from native USDC, or
Yep.
get me any transfer above an amount. That's super cool. Okay, so tell me a little about what we're going to build today. Say we're doing a demo. What are we going to
Mm-hmm.
build?
Yeah, so like I'll like kind of break it down in three phases. One, I'll just give a quick start, like just high level overview of our docs, like different endpoints we have. We'll start very simple, like what's like a simple curl request, and see how that works. Next, I built out some scripts to like show different endpoints. So for example, right, like we'll chart my wallet. If you want to throw in a wallet, we can try Vitalik's wallet or something that might break the calls. But I have some pre-built scripts for PNL, wallets, overviews. And something that's exciting, I was hosting a vibe coding workshop in New York like last month, and essentially it's super easy to build Farcaster MiniApps now. So I've just built out like a quick mini app where you'd be able to input a wallet, and it's a funny mini app. I won't reveal too many details yet, but we'll get into that. And then finally, I guess the third stage is really like showcasing other ecosystem projects that are live right now, built on our API. So it'll be a fun, I'd say, like diverse list of use cases we'll get to see here.
This is super cool. It sounds like it might make my tax season a lot easier.
Oh, for
The
sure.
days of being on Etherscan and parsing individual transactions hopefully are over. But let's get into it. This sounds awesome.
Cool. All right, let's see. There you go. I should have my screen on here. Cool. I guess high level. Let's go into the quick start. So essentially, I guess like without running too much into our landing page, like to reiterate, right? Our goal, kind of similar to what's mentioned here, if our goal is to like abstract wallet infrastructure, so it's as easy as like a couple lines of code to like get started. And here there's an example of like Rainbow Wallet, one of our customers. Essentially any data that you see on there, the token data, the portfolio overview and whatnot is built from our simple REST API. So like that'll be a big focus of like trying to see like essentially every single data point that you see in a wallet like Zerion is packaged into an endpoint. So as a developer, your first kind of journey here is really to like start onboarding to our documentation. And I think what's really interesting now is like a lot of us have started using vibe coding as like a main, like I use Cursor, and I've always had like I'm also like running through my builds a lot, just trying to like use better models. But what we've done here is we've also added like a kind of like a llm.txt file to make it easier for you to like feed your LLM with context on our schema.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so like high level, very simple REST API. What I can do is I have my key in here. Don't worry, it's a limited key, so it's all right if it gets leaked in this call. But let's start with something, I guess, transactions, like our bread and butter. So as you can see, we have a development key here, and it's a simple curl request. And in this case, let me use my my hot wallet to show you a sample schema of the response. And what's cool is kind of coming back to what I talked about earlier with differentiating like us versus some of the lower level transactions or transfers providers. If you see the detail that we have and the filters and like the chains and all sorts of like um, attributes, the detail is really purpose built for consumer dApps and wallets. For example, if you're using Uniswap v4 and say you supplied to a Uniswap v4 liquidity pool, we wouldn't treat that as a send or a transfer. We treat that with a custom label. We'd actually show you this is a Uniswap v4 liquidity pool transfer. So we kind of try to go as granular with like several DeFi protocols, NFTs, to try to get you the accurate label. And I think this is a big part of like tax use cases, wallet use cases, really trying to like identify what happened in a certain transaction in like the most natural language, easy to use format. So here we go. We've put our wallet in this. And if I click on try now,
Honestly, as a consumer, like that's huge. I'll never forget the first year that I traded NFTs on Solana, and I went
right.
to the Block Explorer, and I was like, "What the hell did I do?"
Yeah,
12 months ago, I literally like, I'm an EVM developer. I don't spend a lot of time on Solana, and then I found like something that could kind of parse it in natural language. I was like, "Oh, okay, now I know how to like calculate my cost
right.
basis and my positions and my sells and stuff." And like sometimes it's such a nightmare when you just have like a transaction that is just like to unverified contract. You have no idea what happened.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
No, 100%. And I think Solana is a different beast altogether, just with like a lot of historical transfers being like, like just different in how it works in the architecture. And something that's cool here is like the schema for us is unified across EVM and Solana.
That's
And Solana is in beta right now, so I wouldn't be able to show that here. But a lot of like the other API providers have a separate Solana API that's a completely different schema, right? So we try to make it unified in one place. But high level, as you can see, like pretty much every EVM chain in here. I'll get to these with a more easier to see and parse interface. But point being, right now, you can kind of get your values in integers and floats, however you'd like, decimals. You can kind of see USD value. You can see value in like the native currency. And there's a lot more details, like the tokens metadata, the tokens URL. So you can kind of go from this surface level data directly to like a like the kind of like the interface that you see on here in our wallet or in Rainbow's wallet and whatnot. So like the goal here is to like, as a developer, once you start using this, I think the number one feedback we've got is like, oh, I wish I knew about this earlier, rather than trying to like, map different things out yourself across several different providers. So that we've seen a lot of consolidation here with like, hey, let's just use one high level API for everything that we need. So that's an example for transactions. I'll go into the script, which will probably help visualize this a lot better. And similarly, stuff like PNL, right? PNL has always been historically a really tricky thing, just because it's one, expensive, and it's two, there's no real like right way to do it, fiscally speaking. So what we've done is we've given flexibility here. So you have a ton of different granular details you could try to find out. So like whether realized gain, unrealized gain, net invested. So essentially, if you're an accountant, you can use this. If you're a wallet, you could kind of surface this to like give your users more detailed data. And a lot of times what we've seen is like teams choosing to like maybe even gate this data behind like a premium feature, just because it's a lot more like pro, or you could kind of use this to maybe fetch a CSV of your transactions and your realized gains to send to your accountant, right? So like the kind of granularity that you can get to here is impressive. And under the hood, again, what we do here is, because we have the transactions data that I just showed you earlier, we just parse through all the transactions that you have in your wallet in real time, near real time speed, and we'd be able to fetch, in this case, as you can see, the realized gain, the unrealized gains, fees. Yeah, I've spent a lot in my wallet on gas fees, and this is just one of the wallets here. And then like the total amount received and sent. And something interesting here is like, we've had to go through like several challenges, like how do we treat bridge transactions, right? Like conventionally, bridges would show up as a send or a receive, but we need to like parse every bridge, kind of acting as a meta data layer, and ensuring that we account for them well here. So high level, these are a couple endpoints. We have a lot more that I'll go into in a bit related to wallets. And yeah, similarly, what we have that's interesting, and a lot of teams have started using it as well, is like a swap aggregator. So this is very similar to what teams like 0x and 1inch offer, except for the fact that we also aggregate 0x and 1inch. So in a way, we're a meta DEX aggregator. But again, I think this is something we just offer for free. It's like we've had a lot of fintech teams, especially, who maybe they don't want to use a 0x or another like new provider altogether, and they just prefer to like build a proof of concept really fast. So it's very easy to do that with our swap and bridge endpoints, and even things like fetching gas prices, fetching NFTs within your wallet, and also NFT metadata individually. Those have all been like features that we've holistically just added. We started off only with portfolio data, which is like token data and transactions data, and now we've expanded a lot more into like completing the stack of like data that you'd need. And the final feature here that's really, I think, something useful if you're an enterprise product, especially to like not continuously pull wallets and waste a lot of queries, is subscriptions, webhooks essentially. So that's something that we've also started to like roll out to a lot of large customers, where now you could get notified and only like request to like call, say, like the portfolio endpoint if there's a change in state for a wallet. Previously, every time a user refreshes their wallet, you'd need to like ping our API, and that might waste a lot of calls, especially in like a bull market, right? Or when you just see users refreshing their wallets more and more. And now this is something that we've just rolled out, where it's like it just helps you optimize your backend, and it also helps you build new use cases for stablecoins. For example, we've seen companies use this to like settle payments on their internal wallets, or even just like show a push notification if you want more granular control there. So that's high level how our API works. And the schema, again, is like, I think, more purpose built for developers. But these days, if you're not a developer, I think it's also equally easy to get started, as I'll show you guys in a bit. But we also have recipes, so it's easy for you to like if you want to fork this and build like a transaction history with the UX that I showed you earlier, or an asset tracker or a DEX aggregator, you could kind of do all of that here with a couple clicks. Any questions so far?
No, this is awesome. Actually, another thing I keep thinking about is sorry, I'm so obsessed with taxes. I just was recently, I am scarred at PTSD. The IRS
Yeah,
actually changing in the US to make it so that if you like if you transfer or transact in a specific cryptocurrency, you have to
right,
trace it in a specific wallet. Like the cost basis is now per wallet. It's not aggregated
right.
across all your wallets. So I was thinking like the P&L feature is just so good for that too. I can just pull, like if I know my starting cost basis, I can just pull the P&L for the wallet.
100%.
That's very cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, I mean, it's still not 100% accurate or perfect, right? I think like that's the challenge. Like there's always like, especially wallets over 10,000 transfers, right? And so there's always like anomalies or false positives that can be there, but that's why we have a ton of amazing accounting partners that, you know, integrate our API, but obviously have a manual layer to verify and proofread a lot of these transactions. But I'm with you. Like I think especially I just pray and hope my transactions are right every time I submit my taxes. So at this point, I think we're all in the same boat. Cool. Okay, let's go to scripts. Something fun here. So I showed you transactions earlier, and again, this was pretty much just vibe coded, right? Like all it does is I have my wallet address in here. You can put any wallet address that you'd like. My key. I can obviously limit this key later. Don't worry about that. And then let me try to run this for my wallet, and I'll kind of just walk through the code a little bit. So simple Python script here, nothing too fancy, but as you can see, so what I've done is I've called the past 50 or 25 transactions in my wallet, and I've asked for a couple details here that are probably most relevant, but like the transaction hash, the type, status, timestamp, chain, and transfers. And I think the fact that you can build this even within your terminal in a single call is quite a leap compared to like how we used to use transfers APIs before. But yeah, like I think like the high level thing, I was trading a couple base meme coins on Farcaster yesterday, and you know you can see like I've got a couple tokens from my Farcaster wallet that's connected to my Zerion wallet. Very natural language here, like what tokens are coming in. These are mostly receives, and for failed transactions, we show metadata as well. I've just not added the field here. And similarly for trades, it's very easy to see like what trades are coming in and coming out. And I think the beauty here is you can add more data points as you need, and obviously build this out however you'd like. We've had teams use this to, you know, build like wallet notifications. We've had AI agents that have used this to, you know, kind of try to understand more of like a certain wallet's trading pattern.
Yeah, like I keep thinking like a vibe check. Like sometimes I go on
Right.
Etherscan and I'm just trying to like understand like what does this wallet do? What type of activity does it have? Like maybe it's someone I bought an NFT from and I'm just curious, like, are they a
Right.
professional NFT trader? What other projects are they interested in? It'd be so cool to just
Definitely.
plug in like vibe check me this wallet and tell me like
Oh,
what this
100%.
person does on chain.
100%. It's funny. We actually built something during ETH Global as like a hack 2 years ago, where it was like so it's kind of like if you've seen Solana Blinks. Essentially, we called it Chain Stalker. So if I'm just like scrolling on Twitter and I see your ENS and I scroll over your ENS, it gives you like a summary of like, it's basically a vibe check. Like here's how much money this person has. This is the last pull-up that they held. So like I can say you checked in like, I don't know, Brussels at a certain conference, right? But like a lot of our data can be used to vibe check a wallet, or like almost like for clout, right? To see like here's a PNL leaderboard of like different users. And speaking of vibe check, I feel like something that's relevant here would be getting a summary of your portfolio data, right? So if I get this script on here, there we go. So it's like, what chains do I use most of the time? So like in
That's
this
super
wallet,
cool.
I was able to build all this with like a single call, right? Like here's the percentage distribution with this chain, with this across base Ethereum, like my top 3 chains. So as you can see, like, you know, pretty much base heavy for this wallet. I don't do a lot of like DeFi positions for this wallet, but we could change that for a different wallet. Say I was to get, I'm actually curious to try this with like a different wallet. I'll try to open that on the background. Or if you have a different wallet address, you can also totally give me that. But yeah, let me try to find another ENS. There we go. Let's hope this doesn't break anything. So this is my co-founder's wallet, also doxed, so we don't need to worry there. I'm trying to
the whole what did you call it? Chain stalker. That's why I
yeah.
like doing. That's why I don't do anything in my like public ENS wallets ever. It's
Oh,
like
really?
nightmare fuel for me.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've got to change it at the different script that's pointing to this script, but we'll get to that in the next demo. But yeah, point being, I can also do NFTs. We've not done NFTs so far, but for NFTs, super easy to see. Here's the collection. Here's the quantity. Here's the chain ID. So we also give you the ID, and here's the name. Unfortunately, the view is pretty weird on my terminal. Maybe if I close this. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so you can see like this is the collection. This is the number. Again, very easy to like map this out and build a UX on top. So some of these scripts just help give a better sense of like, I guess, how you can use this to build your own use cases. And the final thing, so I haven't tested this yet. I just had this built a couple minutes before this call. So let's hope this works. There you go. So it's pretty much like I was able to like use some
That's super cool.
plotting uh, plotting data to like actually just have a portfolio view. Here's the trend. Here's the start. I think some of the dates are messed up, but this is pretty much over the past 6 months. And yeah, as you can see, like I guess like this has received like a ton of data points. This is our historical chart endpoint where you could kind of across DeFi and just like ERC20 assets fetch a chart endpoint in this case. So high level, everything that you saw in Zerion's wallet before, fetched with like a simple API. Now for the fun part, let's try to do the mini app. So I guess like for high level, if y'all are curious, like previously mini apps used to be called Farcaster frames, but more recently they're just web apps, which is great for a developer who's just trying to like put together a simple app. Like we've had several examples of people forking like Craigslist to have like an on-chain Craigslist as a mini app, or lottery app as an on-chain lottery app. In this case, I just thought, hey, like what are the apps I use the most often, complementary to my work? One's often like a Pomodoro, another like a time tracker, another is usually like a note taker or like a to-do list. So I figured, hey, why not just build that as a fun mini app, but also like attach your wallet to it. So I just forked existing repo, super simple, and let's try to see if this works. I won't go too much into the code, but essentially part of the mini app, okay, moment of truth. It's in another tab. Let me try to get that on here. There we go. All right, yeah, so localhost. Yeah, so I just call it like it's a funny app where it's like takes your last 24-hour change and gives you like a monetary change in value and the percentage change and gives you a total portfolio. You can kind of, the other things are kind of funny. It's like affirmations, crypto affirmations. There's a little journal with like a backend built in, and there's obviously like a little Pomodoro timer on here. But like the point being, like let's actually do another demo where maybe we try to get let me see. I'm gonna try a big wallet, so like Vitalik's wallet, for example. Let's hope this works. It might take a couple of seconds, but I've just got to like input that wallet target on here, and voila, total portfolio value. All this is like in localhost with our
That's so cool.
API. And you can kind of see, like you can see the possibilities of how you could play around with this data in like several ways. That could be like fun, social, financial, and I think like a good shout out here is also like other APIs, for example, social APIs like Nana or Talent Protocol. We've seen teams building mini apps, just leveraging our data for a certain feature, and then for mostly like financial features, and then like a social data to like complement that. So in this case, I just put up like imagine you could put up a friend's forecaster ID and like send them a fun message that just goes as a DM because that's possible with their API. Like you can kind of imagine how apps like this start to become more like homepages for people as they use crypto. So our goal there really is to power most of these homepages, as I like to call it, and yeah, just like help bringing more high level financial data in a very easy to use format.
Yeah, I love the idea of having like a private aggregator because, you know, many people in crypto have
Yeah,
hundreds of wallets, and trying to just
right,
track like across all the wallets, like how your positional value is actually doing is pretty overwhelming. And
right.
I also don't want to provide that data to like a centralized service that tracks or like essentially listens to what wallets I put into the front end. So this would be very cool. This is something I would be very interested in, like an app just like this, where I could put in an
Right.
arbitrary number of wallets and track my portfolio value at any time.
For sure. No, definitely. And I can cycle through a couple examples that actually did this really well. So one example, this is something that was exciting, and they just actually rolled the demo out today. So I think like for those who are curious, we are working with teams to build the first crypto MCP. And I guess I can have this high level overview for people tuning in, but essentially MCPs here, model context protocols, they help AI agents access data without going through like an authentication process. So like, for example, the Zerion API, if you wanted to get a key, you'd have to come to us and ask us for a key, and we need to like give you a key, and then you're able to use the data, right? Like there's usually an authentication process there, or an onboarding process. You need to sign in with an email and get a key. AI agents have an issue there, right? They're not able to access data. They're not able to talk to these databases or private APIs like ours as easily. So what's really cool is we worked with this company, built with engineers from who are ex Ledger. And the fun thing here is like, let's try to demo this live right now. Under the hood, what they do is they use not only Zerion's API, but they use like CoinGecko's API, Brave's API, a couple other APIs, at least for this demo. But I can say like, what is the portfolio balance for this? And under the hood, they just cycle through different APIs and they try to choose the best API for this specific response. And there we go.
That's so
Boom,
cool.
like
That's
an
so sick.
easy answer here. And something even cooler is we probably don't provide like price data, right? But I can say like, what are the largest companies holding, let's hope this works, holding ETH, and give me their latest like news updates. Let's see if this works. This might use like Brave, Xwords, a couple other like external social sources. Might take a little bit more time. I tried this query earlier. No, okay. I can show the query I tried earlier. So here, I try to chart my balance. Very cool how you could, build like a chart right there. And I try to like say what companies own the most ETH and what's their latest news. And immediately you get an answer. And under the hood, they probably using a combination of our API, of another API. But the cool thing with MCP is like we're talking to teams like them where they plan to essentially build an open market of several APIs, high level, low level, social, financial, all interacting with each other. And I think like the toughest challenge here is for the AI to like learn and understand which API to choose for certain data. So like, maybe there's a Solana DeFi position that we don't track, but there's another API like Bird Eye that tracks that really well. So like, I think those are the kind of challenges as well, where it's like there's a lot of products trying to solve that, and we're always talking to teams like this. But as you can see, like possibilities are endless. Maybe how you use a wallet is very different from how you use a wallet now, like a year from now, where you might even use AI agents, or you might vibe code a smart contract for a specific purpose, which is really cool. And we had another team build. This is the Ask Gina team. They built something similar. You can just paste a screenshot of like several different wallets on here, and you can kind of see, can you get me the balances of all these folks? Under the hood, they just use our API, where it's just cycling through, and here's all their usernames, and here's their total value. So yeah, the possibilities here really are endless.
That's super sick. Okay, now that we're running on time, I'll ask you just a couple more questions. Like,
Yeah.
what would you like to see people build on Zerion? What are some ideas that you've been brewing on, or things that you think could be like very, very cool or compelling?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think like I can start with something that's relevant. I'm in New York right now, and there's stablecoin going on, right? And y'all are building stablecoins as well. So for me, something that I see is really interesting is like more payments in stablecoin companies. Choosing high level API providers purely for like showing like real time data. So as soon as I say I'm like using, there's this cool app called Beer Me, right? Like where I can send you a beer, which is essentially like sending you $5 or whatever on chain. And these are cool companies where it's like they'll need this data to like use a webhook to like immediately get you a notification once I've sent you money in real time. Or companies like StableWatch, they use our API now to like, along with like the TVL for certain stable coins, also show like more granular like holder data, and like who are the top holders of this certain stable coin. That's something that I'm really excited about. I think the other vertical that we're just barely scratching the surface is like what I would say like agentic wallets and composable agent interfaces. And I showed you an MCP example, right? But it would be really cool to see like composable interfaces that treat wallets like knowledge objects. We built out a demo AI in your wallet 2 weeks ago, and something that was really cool here is like if you go to app.zerion.io, you'd see a little modal on the bottom right. That's essentially replacing our support widget. So now you could say, hey, analyze my wallet or analyze my last 20 trades or like who launched this token. And it would actually give you
That's super
data
sick.
fetched from an AI. So I think that's really cool. It's under the hood, just using our data, but just like, with the UX wrapper on top. And then something else would be really cool is just like more like pairing this with like social, like I guess we had the example in from Farcaster that I was showing you earlier, or like even just alerting systems, right? Like get notified when like my ETH is about, like my staked ETH is about to get liquidated, or my leveraged token is about to get liquidated or whatnot. You could build a lot of these like scoring and notification systems on top. So yeah, high level, anything that's like a fun social or financial app that needs real-time notifications.
Cool. That's super cool. I keep thinking that like tracking as like stablecoin balances get more chain abstracted, the idea of like any app having to track n number, like hundreds and hundreds of chains is just ridiculous. So having one single API where you can just aggregate or like subscribe to a specific balance update, super killer for stablecoins. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. Last question: if developers want to build on Zerion, where should they go to jump in?
Yeah, Zerion.io/API. I mean, talk to me. I think one thing that's cool in our team is like we're all super accessible. So I'd say like Zerion.io/API. If you ever need to like contact me or just like reach out, API@Zerion.io is the email. And yeah, I can drop my Twitter and my other links on here, and we'll also like drop some fun demos and examples we couldn't cover just for everyone tuning in.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. This has been another episode of Build on Chain. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks for staying.